are now listening to the IELTS podcast. Learn from tutors and ex-examiners who are masters of IELTS preparation. Your host, Ben Worthington.
Hello there, IELTS students. In this tutorial, we're going to be speaking with Kate. Some of you might be already familiar with Kate once you hear her. She's been correcting essays every now and again for the feedback, for the online course where we offer feedback and students can improve. So welcome to the podcast, Kate.
Thank you, Ben. Hi, everyone. I'm really happy to be here with you, and I'm ready to share some of the things that I'm sure will help you in the IELTS exam.
Excellent. Yes. But before we jump into that, Kate, could you tell us a bit about your past experience, because you were an examiner at one point, weren't you?
Yes, I was an examiner. I was a speaking examiner for a very long time, and that gave me a lot of insight into how the exam works. In fact, and it's less scary than all of us might think. Also, I taught at the university, and that's kind of it. Most of my experience is, of course, teaching at the university, and let's say 1/3 of it is being an examiner.
Very interesting. And at the university, you were teaching students lots of different skills, I guess, and also this included how to pass the reading exam and how to get the reading skills.
That is correct. Absolutely. Yes.
Super. Yeah, because Kate we've been, it's been mainly Kate actually, I'm not going to take full credit for this, but Kate has been writing a book all about the reading. We agreed the contents, what we were going to cover, and Kate just jumped right into it, and then after a period of time just emailed me the whole book, and I was like, wow. And it wasn't rushed or anything like that. It was just amazing top quality material that we'll be soon releasing on the Kindle store. It's just an ebook that you'll be able to buy and download. That's going to be coming out in the next few months. But before that, we're going to talk about some of the contents, because there's a very important section which Kate wrote, which was really interesting actually, about follow the instructions. We can't say it fully because yes. So could you tell us more about follow the instructions, please, Kate?
Yeah. Yes, Ben, sure. The instructions are really important, You might think that this is very simple, and you definitely always know what to do in a question when you take the exam or when you practice the exam. But the issue is that a lot of exam candidates assume that they know exactly what's there in the question, and they don't pay attention to the detail. And I would like to remind everyone that IELTS is a tricky exam because it tests your attention to detail, and that's a very useful skill in life. So actually, don't forget that you really have to give those instructions a good read. Why? Because the instructions might change. Sometimes it says choose no more than 2 words from the text. Sometimes it says choose no more than 3 words and or a number, and what's that? And sometimes it doesn't say from the text. So if you don't pay attention to that, you might do the wrong thing. It's like going completely the wrong way.
Yes, and although this might seem quite logical and straightforward, read the question and make sure you're following it, but under exam conditions, logic can go out of the window. And this is why, I guess, this is probably why it's really important that you could even pass your finger over each word or say it aloud to yourself, no more than 2 words, just to really make sure that you are following the instructions. And yeah, so how did you know, Kate, that this was a very important rule?
Well, how did I know? I noticed, from my exam candidates who would come to me after the exam, and they would say, "Oh my God, I realized that I didn't do what I had to do. I did this, but I had to do that." It's like, yeah, you noticed that too little, too late. And they realized that they rushed into the question, rushing and feeling so scared that you don't have enough time is the main cause of not paying attention to a thing as simple as the instructions. So yes, Ben, you said trace your finger over the instructions. I would go in even further. I typically say circle the keywords, not just underline. Everyone can underline. And I saw my exam candidates make the huge mistake of underlining everything. Oh my God, it's just killing me when I tell them, read the instructions, underline the keywords, and they start underlining every second word. No, it's like that. No. That's why I stop saying underline, I say circle. It
Gotcha.
changes something in their mind. So circle the keyword, circle the 2 words, circle the from the text, and then say it to yourself. Pronounce it in your mind or whisper it to yourself. No one's going to kill you for whispering to yourself in the exam. No.
Yeah.
And that helps you focus and slow down just a bit is exactly what we need in the exam.
Absolutely, yeah. Completely agree there. Very much. And what else can a student do to get ready for the exam and to make sure that they're going to pass this exam, the reading exam?
The reading exam. It always depends on how much you have, how long you have until the exam. Do you have 2 days or, I don't know, 3 weeks or 3 months? It greatly depends on that. But I would advise do 2 things at a time. 1, expand your vocabulary, and 2, practice the timed test. Again, trying to perform under timed conditions is the next best thing to the real exam. I mean, that's the closest to the real exam. Shut the door, tell everyone to just go away, close the door, sit down, look at the clock, and focus. And try to make yourself go slightly faster every time you take the test the next time. I mean, every next test, try to do it a bit faster, a bit more fast.
Yes.
Because you have to do it slightly quicker, because if you don't develop this ability, you're going to take too long.
Absolutely.
But of course, there's the huge load of other advice. But if I could summarize it, like narrow it down, it could be this thing, because that's the main issue.
Excellent point. Yeah, it just reminds me of what I used to say. But before I ask you about expanding vocabulary, I want to just mention something that, like, if you're starting with this exam, you don't have to complete it in the set time. You can take an hour and a half, maybe a bit longer, and just work through the exam, get familiar with it, do it at your own pace, and then, as Kate said, aim to be shortening the time and doing it faster each time. Because if you just take it, like, I don't know, in this set exam time, and you go through it the first time, you're probably going to come up with a pretty bad score, and it's not going to be a very fair score. Whereas if you get familiar with the exam and then master the certain questions that you are struggling with, and then start taking it under exam conditions. Once you've got more familiar, once you've tried these question types a few times, once you've mastered them, then do it under exam conditions. And I found in the past that that's a much easier and much faster way to improve, and also you're not beating yourself up as much. You can give yourself, you got to be a little bit kinder with yourself, so to speak.
Yeah. And allow me to interrupt you. Exactly. The 2 ways of approaching the exam, yes, getting acquainted with the test questions and all that. I call that practice mode. There are two modes, practice mode and exam mode. At first, you practice slowly, figuring out the question types if this is completely new to you. And that is called practice mode. You take it slower. You understand how to think. You learn how to think anew, and then when you got used to it, you take it under exam mode.
Absolutely.
So it's two modes.
Yeah, totally agree there. And you mentioned expanding vocabulary. How do you teach that? How do you teach students to expand and improve the vocabulary?
First of all, I tell them to go no further than the previous exam set that they practiced with. I ask them, did you extract any new vocabulary from there? And they say, no, I just practiced the test. Well, that means you didn't take advantage of the full test. I tell them to go back, forget the timing, forget the strategies, forget everything. Just focus on the words. Try to absorb everything that you found new. Take from the test. Look at the context, see what they mean, see how they work, and then I teach them how to process vocabulary efficiently. I tell them not to make word lists. I tell them not to translate, because IELTS is not a translation exam, it's a synonym exam, it's a paraphrase exam. That's why you really need to make sure that you know how to say it in other words, not just how to translate. I tell them to collect synonyms and to make mind maps. I tell them to take their time and learn the meanings, not just focus on just rushing through the test.
And you said not making lists, not translating, but just expanding the vocabulary, making mind maps, and I guess using the thesaurus as well.
Yes, absolutely. Synonyms, mind maps, and simple explanations. Pictures were necessary. And always get yourself a vocabulary book. A notebook where you would collect vocabulary. Take notes, draw pictures, write your synonyms, and make that connect words by topic, by let's say a synonymic dominant, like let's say the word look, and all the synonyms for the word look, with tiny notes what each synonym means and how they're different, because you don't need to write lengthy definitions. That's one way. If you want to look into vocabulary more closer and make sure that you remember some vocabulary that will be useful in the next test, like lots of academic words and such, there are the three steps, I call it. Define and give synonyms. 2, find a good example, find a genuine example from natural English language, from a quality dictionary. And 3, write your own example with it. And then, believe me, you don't need to go back to that word anymore. 3 steps and you will remember the word. And just one little thing, don't make effort to remember the word. Don't try to remember it by heart. Just leave it soak into your mind. Study it, look into the examples, and then move on. The brain will do its thing. The brain knows how to work.
Very, very interesting. Good
don't
points
force
there.
the brain. Yes, don't force your memory. You don't have to force it. You simply have to look into it.
Gotcha. Very good. Very, very good points. Now, you sent me the book a week or 2 ago, and I saw that there is a big sort of like appendix of academic word from the academic word list. Can you share more about that and why you thought that would be useful to include?
Yes. As both IELTS academic and general training use reading passages from a variety of topics of general interest, but with a certain shift towards the academic side, especially the third reading passage in general training and all three reading passages in IELTS academic. I thought it would be appropriate to introduce the focus on the academic word list, just as I worked with it when I taught English for academic purposes at university. What's the academic word list? That's a certain list of words that turn out to appear in a variety of texts, no matter the topic. It doesn't really matter whether it's history, anthropology, medicine, or, space exploration. Words like concept or approach or, let's say, you name it. There are so many that there are lists, entire lists. They will be useful. And if you focus on a couple of lists, because there are many lists from many sources, that will help you no matter which test you're taking. And one more piece of advice that I could give here is that you have to learn only one word, typically the verb. Let's say conceive, right? Which means understand or imagine. Of course, it means something else too, but it doesn't really matter. But then if you learn the verb and then you learn the word family of this word, like concept or conceivable, and you learn them all together, you've learned the whole bunch. But you only have to start from the first one, from the root word. The root will be different. Sometimes it will change in the noun or in the adjective. But if you learn the main word, you have the whole family.
Absolutely.
And that saves you time. And that's another tip for learning vocabulary that I could give.
Yeah, absolutely. And plus, with English, there's a formula there. Like, it's usually going to follow a similar pattern to get the noun. Yes. And not all the time, because it is a little bit random in some respects, but usually there's a pattern, and sometimes you can just guess it just by being aware of the formula. And once you know these formulas, you can expand your vocabulary exponentially rather than just doing it in a linear fashion of learning like lists or going through. So yeah, that's an excellent point there, Kate. What else could or should a self-study student do when preparing for the reading?
If an exam candidate has enough time, of course they should read, and they should do that to just develop the ability to cover large spans of text with their eyes. But that's a background activity. I call that background work. If you have the time, you should do that. If you don't, then of course you should try and figure out how the test works. And a very important thing that I realized my exam candidates told me, and then I added this to my advice later, was start from the easy things. I mean, start from the test questions or types that you find the easiest. It doesn't matter which part it is, section 1, 2, or 3. But if you start with what you can do best, you will do it faster, you will do it more confidently, you will save time and effort. You won't be stressed out.
And you recommend this strategy for the test or while preparing for the test?
I recommend it for both, actually. For both, yeah. And I know exam candidates who were super at ease with yes, no, not given. The terrible yes, no, not given. The true, false, not given. They said, I find it easier. Okay, you like it, you do it. And if you know that you can do it faster than paragraph matching, than heading matching, go ahead. Because if you start with something that slows you down, it will slow you down.
Right. Gotcha. That makes complete sense. And then, so you just go for the easy ones, and then come back, and if you've got time, work on these the harder ones.
Yes.
Good points there. Good points. And by the way, listeners, there's lots more of these strategies in the book that will be launching very soon. And also what I would recommend as well is that you try different strategies, and so that when it comes to test day, you've tested different strategies and you've found the one that works for you. Because maybe something I've said, you try it and it doesn't work for you, then try something else. We're talking, Kate and I, from our own experience and from experience teaching and helping lots of students, and we've collected a lot of different strategies, and it's up to you to find out which ones work for you. I'm pretty certain most of what we're saying is going to work, but just like Kate said though, you're going to have your unique peculiarities, and maybe you'll find, just like Kate said, the yes no not given is easy or it's horrible for you. You've got to just find out for yourself. And this is what I was talking about with another tutor a while back, which is like basically taking responsibility for your own learning and finding out how to learn and rediscovering how to learn, because a lot of us, we haven't been in that, we just sit down in a classroom and the learning starts. But now we're self-study students, or now that you're self-study students, it's really critical, it's really important that you find out how you learn as a person and then implement that strategy. So Kate, is there anything else that you would like to add, or anything that you really like about the book that you've just finished?
Well, I like everything about the book because it's it's
your second baby.
Yeah, it's my second baby. I have one already. The book is an easier baby,
Gotcha.
Well, I'd like. I think we're going to discuss this another time. Remind me if I'm wrong. The golden rule, right?
Yes, definitely.
But I would still like to start it here because that's so global, that's so important that everyone forgets.
Okay.
And that's directly connected to the vocabulary acquisition. Remember that the test contains all the right answers. I mean, it's so obvious and it's so simple that no one wants to believe that. And I keep telling them and they don't believe me. And if you believe the test and the reading passage, and if you go back to it and find that answer in other words in the actual reading passage, and you confirm that, oh yes, my answer is exactly the very same thing but said in other words, you've got it. Just remember that that's the case. The real answer is always hidden in the actual reading passage. Your business is to find it. Just go find it, underline it, write the number of the question. It's like, oh, this is the answer to question 14. My answer was, let's say, option B or option E. And this is exactly the words that say absolutely the same thing as the words in the answer. Yes, I know, check, never go back.
Perfect.
The certainty of never going back, and you know that it's correct because this is how they plan the test. This is how they do the test. And actually, I'm happy to share that I have attended a couple of seminars where they explain how English tests are designed, be it Cambridge tests or IELTS tests. They're always designed a certain way, and yes, there's always a confirmation, a proof in the text, and there's always one answer. There's no ambiguity. And if you think that both B and E might be the answer, it's wrong. There's always answer, and there's always a distractor, but you will read more about that in the book, about not paying attention to the distractors and all that.
Excellent. Yes. Well, in the next tutorial that we record together, I'd like to ask you to expand on the golden rule and to expand on the structure of these English tests, because that sounds very, very interesting. So with that, thank you very much, Kate, for joining us today. It's very good catching up. And just one last thing for the students, that if you're struggling with this IELTS exam, that as you've probably heard us, we've got resources on the Amazon Kindle store. We've got the online course that's helping a lot of students improve their score. It's the Jump to Band 7, or it's free. And we've also got a lot of materials and resources online at IELTSPodcast.com. And when you go there and you're looking for your material, you can also sign up and we'll send you a big jumbo PDF there full of sample essays and tips and all the rest of it. So yeah, remember as well that if you are struggling, you're not alone. You can come to IELTSPodcast.com and we'd be more than happy to help you. So take care.
Thanks for listening to IELTSPodcast.com.